In this video, I'm going to explore the idea of the conservative elitist being seen as the mega normal ideal person in our society, the ideal group, and how mental health is disproportionately liberal, ironically, to enforce this. Because you have the kind of Einstein, genius, eccentric, kind of weird elitist, think tank, innovative technocrat type of person. And then you have the conservative elitist who is the special gated community, mega normal, ideal product of society, right? The perfected product versus somebody who is weird and undesirable in many ways, except for he's smart, right? This unattractive, sickly geek and so on, versus the kind of well-balanced, perfectly normal, conservative elitist. I'm not a liberal or a conservative. I wish to preserve the truths of God. And I firmly believe the ideal man is the Sun Temple African martial artist who maintains the ancient truths and not some kind of scientific crook who has no heart and has a sick soul. He's sick mind, body, and soul, and nobody seeks to correct him but the ideal man with the pure truth, that is. No one seeks to correct him in pure truth and in the spirit of God but the ideal man in this day and age. And as cocky as it might sound, I do believe it is me. I have been made to look like a weirdo, like an eccentric person, like someone with a mental illness or something because of drugging and conditioning and the psychological operation against me. Because the Igbos are seen as one of the most intelligent groups of people on the planet. And when you're going to keep the black man down, you have to keep down perceived threats first and foremost. I do believe that they're up there when it comes to intelligence. It has to do with the martial arts kind of conditioning over generations, the ability to change, to be dynamic, to conform to a system, to put yourself beneath people while still maintaining your chi, your ikenga, your drive to be successful in the new system. Unfortunately, the Igbo is at odds with himself. Those who are worldly will do it that way. Those who are true martial artists, true Sun Temple martial artists, will insist on morality and not subject themselves to contributing to an immoral system to rise to the top. And for generations, we have been screened out, and I am basically the last one left. All right. So when we think about a handsome, mulatto, Egyptian-looking guy with curly hair, not straight, who is wearing a flowing and beautiful yellow and white martial arts uniform that reflects his grace, masculinity, and profoundly perfected martial arts insight. Ideal. No woman in her right mind would desire someone else more. Period. That's why they must be in their wrong mind to accept this pseudoscientific, complemented by science, by true science, fake kind of criminal, classless social order. Not class A, but class E. Several classes down. All right. This is also why when you look at the grading, right, A, B, C, D, F. Why did they skip the E? The E is the F. The F is missing one part of the E. The E is more of a failure than the F. Why did they skip it? Because they're evil. They focus on the female, right? The fee that they pay is they give up their masculinity to be a part of this system. They become effeminate, feminized. All right. So the ego, right? The E must go versus the A must go. I don't have an ego because I speak the truth. I speak the A truth, which elevates me with the E, with the A and not with the E. So why don't we say Native Americans who are wise, who do not have a degree, are wise? The Native American spiritual man, for example. He doesn't have a college degree. He might have dropped out of high school. Why is he still considered wise? Because obviously there's an acknowledgement, a general acknowledgement at that, of different forms of intelligence. Well, why do we say that the kind of Chinese, Buddhist kind of guy is wise when he doesn't have a degree? But yet, the scientific community focuses on his philosophy when they push mental health and the left and so on, right? Buddhism, yoga, etc. These guys, Hindu, Buddhism, Jainism, kind of Eastern philosophy. Why? Because it's more scientific. I would argue it's incorrect, because if you look at the history of Hinduism and Eastern philosophy especially, we see a time where the wizards, the kind of sissy geeks, start to replace the natural warrior caste, which used to be on top. And this argument is still a minority argument held by some people in Eastern religion, that the warrior caste actually is supposed to be on top. That the fastest way to exchange karma, from their perspective, this is my belief, is to be part of the warrior caste. I do believe that the natural order is a martial arts order, and I do believe I've proven my point a million times over, and it makes women who are attractive that much more despicable. And I do believe, unfortunately, that there is a racial component to this. I do believe they've bred with geeks who are racist, who wanted to avoid African martial artists breeding with women and their kids thinking like them. So part of oppressing that people and getting them to conform was the rapes that took place. We can use the rapes of Germany. Why aren't Germans pushing hard as a group with the Nazi philosophy? Why doesn't it resurge altogether? Why is this huge left in the Germany? Because a lot of 3 million German women plus were raped in World War II, especially as the Russians invaded. Okay, so what happened? A bunch of communist kind of leftists had, impregnated women, and their kids ended up being more like the communist leftists than the kind of National Socialist German. Ain't that about a bitch? Isn't that despicable? I see it in my race. I see it in every other race. Colonialism, neocolonialism, command and conquer. They're considering the order, commanding people as they conquer, and what they need to do for the long-term control of that people. This is why depraved and deprived, there's wordplay there, the A and the I, right? Depraved, deprived. What happens when you deprive people of love and a true order and the true direction, the natural direction, the divine direction? They become depraved. What happens when you deprive them of what they would naturally have? They become depraved, generally speaking. Does Christianity prevent this? No. Are the conservative elitists, a lot of them, are they Christians? Yes. Are they hypocrites? Absolutely. That which you do for the least of your brethren, the brethren of God. You are rich. You are not the brethren of God. You are the children of the devil. The God of this world has given you your rank according to your own book. Okay? This is your kind of Lord of this world. All read Dante's Inferno. This is where you would go according to your own book. This is kind of like your God, a big black, demon. Black colored, not racial. Okay. All right, so most people, when they look at their own race and they're proud of their achievements, they are looking at it from a Western perspective. This guy is good at sports. This guy became a scientist. This guy became this, and this, right? From a Western perspective. Those people whose families bred with the West, the white man, whatever, and they had kids, right? Mulatto kids and so on. If they seek to connect to their culture, they're seen as weird, and society sells them products to feed into that misconception. Why would you want to be like your people when we have injected you with the genes and the culture and the social structure of ours? You must be a weirdo. Let's do little bitch shit to make you seem weird. That's part of why they made me lose 30 pounds. My face started being reshaped a different way. I don't look handsome anymore. I look kind of like a leftist geek, and I absolutely despise the left as a result. But I also despise the right. Okay? When you already reject something and they go out of their way to make you look like something, including using chemicals and psychology, you despise that thing. You don't become that thing if you have any honor and any heart. All right, moving on. So, when we go to the Scorpion King, right? What happened when he defeated Memnon? He came outside, there was a huge army outside, and they all bowed to the Rock, who played the Scorpion King, because he had proved that he was a greater warrior than Memnon. Most people, that goes over their heads. Memnon was a warrior king, a warrior pharaoh in the movie The Scorpion King, and when he defeated him in single combat, then the warriors bowed And that is why it goes the pharaoh, the warrior martial arts priest, then the warrior class, and then everybody else. The craftsmen and them, they're pretty much peasants, right? They're not supposed to cheat warriors out of their rightful place and help a bunch of criminals, elevate criminal scum in the minds of people above the warriors and the warrior priests. And that's what we see happening. And this certainly is a consequence of the hawk and the leopard temples allowing these other temples to exist instead of one by one screening them out under false pretenses and acting like snakes. The only reason these snakes exist is because my forefathers, my ancestors treated them fairly. Pharaoh versus the snakes. That's why they don't even call themselves pharaohs, because they know they don't deserve it. They are snakes. They are scum. If you're rich in this day and age, my goodness, Lord have mercy, because you are scum. Not only you're a survivor, but you're a rich, indifferent, greedy knave. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Moving on. So we go to nature and nurture, right? Nature, the T is the plus, right? Know your E. Okay? Know, so we go to nurture, right? Know Ra, you Ray. Okay, excuse me, no Ra Ray, rather. You're not Ra, you're Ray. Okay. It's also E rat run, E rate run. And this is not when, you're being drugged and you're sparring and people are trying to hit hard and they have a bunch of guys at the park willing to jump you if you start fighting back aggressively. That's not the same thing, It's to emphasize the point was scored, So they do little bit shit to confuse you about who is the coward, as if the guy who goes against the grain is uncontrolled opposition by himself is the coward, and everybody else is brave. How stupid is that? It's like saying, Martin Luther King, to them is a coward. Malcolm X, and even though these guys were controlled to a certain degree, you get my point. It's stupid. It is stupid to see it that way. We live in a society of dumb fucking airhead bitches, right? Why do they call them dumb blondes? Because they're arguing over who the ideal person is, and at the center of this debate is the kind of German non-Jew, and the German Jew. Okay, so the Jews actually accepted eugenics at first. They praised Galton because they knew it worked in their favor. When they started being put in camps and all this stuff, then they backed away from it, and then they started subtly doing it behind the scenes along with their allies. Okay, so Hyksos, okay, sees Ka, okay, sees and sees him, Hike says. Okay, so 15th dynasty, the technology, they didn't invade Egypt until they had technology. I go over this time and time again. Romans, heavy armor, Hyksos, the chariots, and so on. It allowed for little mini-me's to do drive-bys and to use their height to their advantage, which was unnatural. It's interesting how even when they had bows and arrows, the shorter man still struggled to face the taller man. The taller man dominated. Even with projectiles, the taller athletic man dominated. And this is why the natural ideal martial artist is tall, athletic, insightful, graceful. He's from the Hawk Temple. He's from the Leopard Temple. I'm sure you can do the math. All right. I'm sure you can understand how it doesn't pay to be a big, strong guy, and there's poison darts and shit like that. All right, moving on. And even if there wasn't, there's arrows, and there's not great medical care and so on. So Amen learned the tactic of splitting the temples that he was against, right? The hidden. All right. So Amun-Ra asked them to confess their sins and to demonstrate good characters. Then they presented the Rosetta Stone to the Ptolemies, and then the Ptolemies were overtaken by the Romans, and you have Jupiter Amen, and on, the English, colonizing the world, and the French, and so on and so forth, and the various Christian traditions, the Protestant and the Catholic. I'm sure you can connect the dots there. Okay. So Set is the disgruntled family member that isn't chosen. He's worldly, okay, and this is kind of what you see in society, a bunch of disgruntled people who are part of some kind of ruling class family who are mad because they're not naturally chosen. It's laughable to think that God meant for them to be in charge, and if he did, it's laughable to think that he did it because of they're consistent with morality in his plan, and I'm sure we all can agree on that. All right. I'll send it there.